and giving it free to the public. And during our face-to-face events, we've had about 200 to 300 people who have attended our events. And today, we have Ideas and Inspiration YouTube channel, which has more than 370,000 subscribers, and some of the videos have got 7 million views. Yeah. So that's Jit Puru and Ideas and Inspiration. And for today, what will he be talking about? As all of us know, last year, March, when WHO declared, this current situation, COVID as an pandemic in that sense, right? A lot of people had their lives turned around, upside down. It's been tough for a lot of people. They've been struggling. What was not normal is now considered normal, but we still have to strive on. So today, Jit will be interviewing normal people who have gone through their challenges and still going through their challenges, but are still staying strong and pushing through. So I'm going to leave the floor over to Jit Puru. So I'm going to stop sharing here. Jit, over to you, sir.
Hey, Ashok, thank you so much for the introduction. And most importantly, thank you so much for having me here today to spend the next hour, right, with all of you that have tuned in. So thank you. And thanks everyone for taking the time. It's a great start to the week. It's a Monday, and here you are on a Monday evening joining us. And I'm so pleased to see the turnout that we have today. All right. So we are live on Zoom right now, and we are also live on YouTube. So what's going on today for now is actually going to be live on our YouTube channel as well. So we are going to be having a lot of viewers from all over the world. So if you are tuned in to this session via our YouTube live session, welcome wherever you are over the world. There's a comment box there. Just write where you're from. I would love to see where you're from. And for those of you who have tuned in via Zoom, good evening to all of y'all, and thank you so much for joining us. Right. So my name is Jit, as Ashok has mentioned just now, and I'm the founder of Ideas and Inspiration. And this evening is a discussion, because I was speaking to Ashok, and we were talking about this. We said, hey, it's been a year and a half since COVID started. All right. Lives have been turned upside down. Not some lives, but a lot of lives. Majority of us were not prepared for this kind of a change. We have often heard that change is the only constant. Change is happening all around. Change, we must be ready to adapt to change. We hear this all the time, but I think none of us expected lives to change the way it did for the past 1.5 years. And the reality is lives are still changing because we are still we're not out of the woods in terms of the pandemic. We are still fighting it. We are still trying to overcome it. And we are still adapting to different changes that is happening all the time. And what's different about the kind of change that we're experiencing right now is this. It's not just businesses that are affected. It is not just relationships that are affected. It is not just finances that are affected, but life in totality is affected. No matter which walk of life we are from, there is at least going to be one part of our life that has now changed since this pandemic started 1.5 years ago. And my discussion with Ashok was just that. Say, hey, let's run a session, not to give people solutions, because I think there's a lot of that going out there. How do you overcome adversities? How do you adapt to change? How do you feel positive when you're feeling negative? I think there's a lot of great sessions out there, but I want to do something a little different. I wanted to get great people that I personally know on board to share what were their struggles during this 1.5 years. So I've got great friends who are on board today who are willing to share what their experience has been for the last 1.5 months. And our goal is not to prescribe solutions or magic pills for people to overcome their problems, but more to let everyone know that, hey, we are all in this together, and we are all going to find a solution, or at least we are going to go through this together, hand in hand. Nobody is alone. And that's my message with staying strong and pushing through. Nobody is alone. We are in this together, and we will persevere through these times together. And when we do come out of these challenging times, we will come out of it together. All right. So that's my goal for today. Okay. So once again, for those of you who are tuning in via Zoom, if at any point of time you've got any questions based on what my guests are sharing, please write them down in the chat box itself. I will go through these questions, and I may pick a few questions up to put it to my guests itself for them to answer. If you've got questions for me, you can do the same. For those who are tuning in via YouTube Live, same thing. There is a chat box there. Just type your questions there. I will go through these questions as well. Okay, so without further delay, I want to get this program started because I've got a great lineup of guests today that I want to bring on board. Okay, and my first guest for today is someone that you've already met just now. Okay, it's Ashok. So Ashok, please turn on your camera. I'd like to bring you on because I want to have you on as my first guest and to see. Yeah, so Ashok, let me just get you here.
Bit of a surprise, but okay.
Yeah, there's a bit of a surprise, right?
It is.
It is. Okay, just give me a minute, Ashok. Let me just, there you go. All right, so Ashok. So for those of you who don't know Ashok, Ashok is a change management facilitator. He works with people about adapting to change. He works with organizations, he works with people, and he helps people adapt with change. He's been doing this for a long time already, but I want to talk to you, Ashok, about the change that is going on right now. As someone who specializes in change management, what are the changes that you have had to make in the last 1.5 years?
At a personal and professional level?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Because I'm sure your business must have been affected as well, and also some of your certain parts of your life might have been affected as well, right?
Okay, so all right. So, well, yes, we have been affected, but I think I had a lot of resource from my past experience. See, I've been through the 97 financial crisis, the SARS, and the 98 crisis, and I pulled out a lot of learning lessons from there to help me get through this. So, kind of changes I had to make was definitely adapting to technology, learning new things, right? And what I kept on doing was I increased my level of exercise because I really needed to keep my mind firm. And I think one of the most important things I did in April last year when we went into our circuit breaker in Singapore was actually journaling. I started journaling what I was grateful for the previous years, because that kept me happy and energized. And I kept looking at that. I think that was one of the most important things that I did for myself.
Okay.
So, so these are some of the changes I had to adapt for myself. And I had to be strong for not only for my parents, my siblings, my spouse, my friends around also in that sense, because it was not easy, listening to all the bad news in that sense.
So what were some of these bad news?
Well, you see, I don't know whether social media at this point of time is really bad for me because back in 2003, there was no social media. So we didn't have news from all over the world. So this time around was news like, we had friends who were diagnosed with COVID either overseas or in Singapore, and people who were losing jobs, people who were going through marital issues. Right, because even in Singapore, I think since last year, July, the family court has been busy. Right, so when you hear of these kind of bad news going around, there's a lot of social strain and family strains. Yeah, and it is how you keep. I can't say positive, but things are bad. But how do you keep your energy up in that sense? Yeah. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, you did, because it is true. The issues that you're stating, they're all true issues. And I think we all see this happening one way or another all around us. Some of us are experiencing it. Some of us know of someone who is experiencing it. But the struggles are real and the challenges are real, right?
Absolutely.
So, from a perspective of a change management specialist, how well do you think we are adapting to change?
Well, not that well. But then it's an expected cycle. I can see people slowly accepting it.
Okay.
I can see how at certain government levels the communication is coming through what is required. At the ground level, I up to end of last year, I could see more people resisting it. They were not ready for it. They were hoping for what it was before, right? But this year, I think I see what I'm seeing is the acceptance, because when you look at the whole change curve, there's always a resistance to change first before they start accepting it. So I'm seeing a bit more of the emotional acceptance of things. I'm seeing a bit more difference in terms of how people are now exploring new possibilities. Okay. So I do see that, but it's a natural curve, but it's taking some time, and I suspect it's going to take another 12 to 18 months before people get back to the full strides.
So I suppose what you're trying to say is that it is normal to still feel like we have not adapted to what's going on, right?
It's very normal.
Yeah.
It's very normal.
Yeah. Cool. So Ashok, great. Thank you so much. I think there was some great insights that you have shared. I wish I could go on talking to you for a few more hours, but then, that would mean I have to take away time from our other guests as well that we have. So thank you so much for coming in.
No worries.
Right. So my next guest for today, all right, is someone that I've known for a couple of years now, I think. And her name is Priya. All right. And I mean, Priya has been in many different industries over the last 12 years. She runs a food blog. She's done social media marketing. She's even a coach to women in entrepreneurship, and Priya has been living in Singapore for a few years now. But I want to bring Priya up now, not to talk about her business, not to talk about her coaching and all that, but something that is a little closer to the heart. Okay, so Priya, hi.
Hi, Jit, and
Hi,
hello,
Priya.
everyone. So good to see you all.
Yeah. So Priya, thank you for joining us. And you know what I want to talk to you about, because I think you went through something of an ordeal in the last couple of months. It's something that we see happening all around, but something that, in my opinion, we would never want happening to us or someone around us. Okay, but you had gone through this, and I like to hear your side of the story. How was that for you? So what I'm talking about is this. So Priya lives in Singapore, but Priya is from India. She's still got family in India, and quite recently, both her mom and dad were diagnosed with COVID. And being in Singapore and being in a position where we can't really travel that freely, Priya went through quite an ordeal being here in Singapore, not being able to go back to India, but still having to manage everything. So Priya, tell us a little bit more about this.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jeet, once again for inviting me for today's event. And yes, it's so easy to say, we always keep saying we're all in it together, and I can totally understand what you're feeling. Even I have said it couple of times in my social media videos. But when things really happen to you, you don't feel anything. You just go into a robotic state of mind where nothing, no strategies. Actually, you can't sit and think about strategies. Okay, I'm in this situation now, so these are the 5 strategies that I'm going to apply or can help me out to come through, go through the situation. You don't get that time. You don't, you just can't do anything. So both my parents suddenly, they were all fine, and suddenly one evening, and my mom called and she said, my dad is not feeling well, and I need to, he need to go through the test, and and when they both were vaccinated. So it was like a very casual evening talk, and I said, okay, let's get the test done and see. And but I was like 100% sure that since he's vaccinated, they both are, and they don't even go out that very often. So okay, things will be fine.
Yeah,
But
it cannot be COVID, right?
yes, it cannot be COVID. And anyways, people are having normal influenza flu and viral fever. But then, and even when the test came positive, I was just totally, shaken, like what to do next. I mean, I really don't know which doctor, to contact and what medicines to give, how to cope up with the situation. Then, I took some time and I started connecting with my cousins who were there in my city, and and then started coordinating one by one. And then from that day onwards, things just became worse because after that, my mom became positive. Then my dad got serious, and we had to admit him. And then in the hospital also, his situation was pretty much critical. He was in HDU, that is a high dependency unit, and then my mom was in another hospital. So you can understand the entire situation. One phone call just changed their entire life. And that was the time I just quit my side hustles. I wanted to focus more on my work and wanted to create more content and all. And it happened. And I was, forget about work. I was not in a state to even do my, focus on my regular activities.
Yep,
Right?
I can
It was
imagine.
so difficult.
Yeah.
And I need to make, keep making calls, connecting with people who can help. And, I just thought like I need help and I need to shout it out. So that's what I did. I called up the neighbors. I called up whomever I knew in my city, my family, friends, cousins, whoever are there, that this is what is happening in my home. There's no one to, take care. And even for a medicine, how difficult things are. Even if you order, medicines, they don't have stock. There's no one to deliver. So you need someone to connect. But as I said, as I kept asking for help, say, I'm in this situation, I really badly need help. So whoever have whatever information, please help me out with. And it worked. Volunteers came forward, and two of my neighbors, they were very supportive. They were the one who took care, basically, sort of supplying food. And I knew someone through a virtual, through a conference last year. And I had this in mind that she runs a food business in back in my city. So I connected with her in Facebook and said, "This is what's happening. Can you deliver food to my house?" And she said that yes, we are. We have come up with a COVID food, patient food program. We are supplying. So I said that please go ahead and please help me out.
So you were getting a lot of support from people that you did not expect to get support from, right?
And I took the help of social media. I did.
Yeah.
I screamed out that this is what is happening. I need help. And whoever have, as I said, and this really helped, because if I would have not done that, if I would have just spent time complaining, crying, living like what's happening, and more, I would have become more anxious. But since I started connecting with people and talking to them and asking for help, things, the time was tough, definitely, but at least I was able to bring the right help at the right time. Medicines were delivered by someone or the other. It happened one day. The app person, he came halfway. Then from that way, my another neighbor, he brought the medicine and he delivered in front of my parents' door.
Yeah.
So this is how we connected, and even from social media, as I said, I got a lot of help. A lot of people reached out to me, and
because of social media.
Yes, and when my dad was in hospital, in village, once they're taking the COVID patient, you can't talk to them. No cell phones are allowed, and you don't know what's happening. You have to wait for the 24 hours for that one call to come, and then they'll inform you how he's doing.
And what was that 24 hours like for you?
Yes, and that's not only for my dad, also for my mom. To different hospital, different medical team, different protocols. So, and then obviously there are, my daily activities are there. So it was so intense. But then from social media itself, from Facebook, a person was like working in one of the hospitals, the staff, and he said, "Okay, I'll pass you the information. How is it doing?" He even made me talk to my dad through his mobile. So that was an amazing experience. We keep saying the power of social media. I literally, experienced that, because just imagine, he doesn't know me. He just saw my stories, and I didn't even know that he exists in my friend list. So he just pinged me and said, I work in the same hospital. I can connect you with your dad. And the next thing is like,
Wow.
I was talking to him, right? So that's how things happened, and by God's grace, and I had that faith in the Almighty, that time may be tough, but we'll go through it, and we'll and I really had that faith in the Almighty, and I was praying hard. So that's all I could do.
So both
right?
your mom and dad are doing good now, right?
Yes, they're back, and
They're
they're
back. They're good.
a tough battle, but they're
Yeah.
back. And I'm
So
so
what is
thankful.
this? So what has this whole ordeal taught you about the human spirit?
Yes, as I said, when you go through such situation, strategies really don't help. So you cannot use like the 3 strategies to control your anxiety, or 5 steps to, feel positive. What happens is like you go through a lot of emotions, so you need your people, you need that safe society, a circle, like your tribe to be with you, who you feel like you need to be heard, you need to be loved, and for that you need to you just can't be quiet. You need to scream out, you need to let the world know that what you're going through and what you need, to cry for help. You really literally need to do that in your life, and there's nothing wrong
so there's nothing
being
wrong with asking for help, right?
Yes, there's nothing wrong in asking for help, and the faith, right? You need to keep that faith going. That all I can do is all that is in my control is to do the things in the right way. So that I did that. What was in my control, to connect with people, to ask for help, to have that, keep that faith, and then leave the rest to the Almighty, and let the universe take care of it. So you really don't have any control of the result, but just do your part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So Priya, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your experience and your insights. I for one, like I said, I knew what you were going through, and it's not easy. I think especially when, even for me to hear what you were going through as you were going through it, I think it was challenging. I couldn't even begin to imagine what it must have felt like for you.
I know it was very, very.
So thank you so much for sharing this with us, and for inspiring us to ask for help, because I think that's a very important thing as well. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yes, that's Priya. Okay, so I wanna bring on our next guest straight away. Okay, and our next guest is someone that I've also known a very long time. It's Rob. Rob, I want to get you on right now. Let me just get you here first. The spotlight. Here you are. So Rob has a lot of experience. Rob has, wow. Where do I start when it comes to introducing Rob? Okay, so what you'll notice, or at least what I've noticed most about Rob, is Rob has an enthusiasm for life. Okay, he has a genuine enthusiasm for life. That is his professional work, but anything that he does, it's not about work or life, but it's life in totality. All right. So I brought Rob on board today because I have a few questions for you, Rob. Okay. And Rob, if you can unmute yourself, I want to jump straight into it. Are you there, Rob?
You there?
Yes, sir. So Rob, tell us a little bit more about yourself, sir.
Well, I think I'll have to go back to Ashok's wonderful introduction of tonight's session, and further by saying it's such a privilege and honor to be on with everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here with you, Jit, and also Ashok and our other friends professionally and our colleagues, those I haven't met. And he said in the beginning he was going to have people on that were normal. I don't think I fit that box. I'm in the abnormal box. I was born in the year of the roosters, so I've kind of followed my grandfather's World War II track on getting up before the sun and going to bed after the sun.
Yeah.
So, it's an early morning for me most of the time. But
Yeah.
look, always a pleasure to be on board with you. And
Yep.
from the beginning with the ideas and inspiration, when you came up with the idea, within a minute, I was like, hey, I'm on board. What
Yeah.
can we do?
That's
So
right.
it's been a great journey, and I'm privileged and
Yeah.
happy to be with you here tonight.
So cool. Let me just ask you this, all right? So you've been around the globe. You're a professional speaker. You're a CSP. You've been to a lot of countries, and traveling was your thing. How many flights are you on in a year before COVID?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask this, so
Yeah.
I brought out my Qantas tickets and British Air tickets, and there was 37 in 2019.
Yep.
And by the time I took my last flight on my last flight from Sydney on March the 9th,
Yep.
March 20th, I had done 9 in the first quarter of 2020.
And that's just 9 in the first quarter, right?
Yeah.
Before
Look,
lockdown started. Yeah.
like Brenda Bentz, who's been a good friend for a long time here in Singapore. I passed 850 flights last year, in the last 20 years. So
Yep.
it's part of what we do to get around and see our friends, our clients, our compatriots, our alliance partners, and
that's
SMEs and corporate. So it's been a big change, definitely.
So how has that change affected you? For someone that has spent so much of time in an aircraft, and now you've been in Singapore and only in Singapore for the past 1.5 years.
Yeah,
how big of a change is that?
Yeah, well, it's been a real upside down, I'd say, because you need to be versatile. You need to take on board that you're not the only one in this this bucket of stuff going on. And for me personally, it's a lot like the red, the yellow, and the green boards behind me. I do a lot of work in this area. I make it very simple for people to look at colors and look at where they're at in certain boxes. And the red zone, when COVID came along, was a real impact for everybody, not just me, but the whole
Yeah,
world.
but I want to hear about you, Rob.
Yeah.
I want to see how it impacted you.
Yeah, well, directly, I think it was about 2 weeks before this was really an impact. But the big impact for me was being at a wedding in early March of 2020 and getting a phone call on the Sunday morning after my niece's wedding in Melbourne from my virtual assistant's son, who I've seen grow up. I helped him drive in Australia. And I'm going to put this picture up. Hopefully you can all see it. But this young lady here, name is Monica, and some of you on board will know Monica, but she'd been my virtual assistant for 15 years. And the phone call I got on that Sunday morning at 7 o'clock was from her son, that she had a stroke the night before in the kitchen. And they rushed her off to the hospital. And I got up to Sydney as quick as I could to see her and him and make sure things were stabilized. But what they found in the diagnosis of her situation was she had the early stages of pancreatic cancer. And that was a real hit because that's not something that you come back from. Steve Jobs died from that, and he had a lot of money, of course, to fix it. But Jit, I think that was the first real impact because I had 10 days to be in Sydney before I got on a Qantas flight to come back here. And those 10 days, I saw her in the hospital 3 times. I took her out of the hospital with her son. And I saw her on the last night before I got back here and spent, most of the evening till midnight before I flew out the next day. And she passed away 5 weeks later. And after 15 years of being with somebody and doing so many things, and having her in Singapore and New Zealand and Hong Kong on projects, it's very hard to lose someone who's like so close to you and your family. So that was the first tipping point. It was a personal loss before this thing really unraveled in business. So you got to learn.
Were you able to fly at that point of time?
Absolutely.
When she passed on? No.
I was even part of the virtual. I was part of the virtual funeral in Sydney on the 1st of May. Yeah. But no, it was a real heartache because there could have been so much I could have done for and with her family because I've seen her boys grow up. One of her boys is a Qantas pilot, and it's just heartbreaking when this happens so quickly, and it happened time and time again in the first 2 quarters of 2020 and the third quarter, and that's just part of having a global presence, a global family, and a global friendships that you're going to have people who come in your life and go at different times, and this has not been easy.
And the difference right now is that it's not that easy to get to where you want to get to, right? In the event of an emergency. Because in the past, you could just buy a flight ticket, you jump on a plane, and you'll be there, the next day. But
unlike Star Trek and Spock, and we can't get in the little defibrillator thing and molecularize out of here, or click our heels like Dorothy and Wizard of Oz, and it ain't going to happen. But I can come to pass the risk and give you some grief, which I enjoy doing. That's for sure.
So now, what's it been for you for the past 1.5 years, just being grounded here in Singapore? What have you done? What's different for you now? What have you come to appreciate, and what are you missing?
Well, the first part of phase one, I was here from an hour and a half before the lockdown. So our Qantas flight with 55 people with the crew landed on the 20th of March, and an hour and a half later it was lockdown. So we made it inside that. But as most of us folks who are in Singapore on this right now know, that we quickly went into a real adjustment. For me, I love swimming. I swim 25,000 meters a month. For the next 3 months, there was no pool, so that was a real shift, because we've got a beautiful pool at our place, as you know. I know Phil's been there, and Ashok's been here, and Rini's been here. So you've seen our pool. It's one of the best pools in the East Coast. So to look outside and see that pool and never be able to touch it for 3 months was very painful. But that's a small thing compared to other people. So I think the first thing to do is recalibrate the pain points to pleasure points. And for me, being an early morning person, I really looked at what Singapore government was giving us, which was the opportunity to get out, get some fresh air for an hour or two. And I straight away found ways to get out in the morning and get rid of that angst, get rid of that stress, get out of the office, get out of the house, find a way to smell fresh air, get some water, watch the sun go up, and see other people out there who are just going through similar situations. And so that first quarter was really about making significant adjustments that I could control, and control the controllables, and try to let the rest just do what it does,
Nice. So well, before I let you off the hook for this evening, right? So you have a big sign behind you that says Chief Enthusiasm Officer, right? And I can imagine that after 1.5 years of being in and out of lockdowns, lives being changed on a daily basis, because we still don't know what changes may be coming or that's in store for us. How do we keep our enthusiasm up?
Yeah, it's a good question, and thanks, Jit. I think CEO stands for me, those things as being the enthusiasm officer of your own domain. They say if you want to change the world, start with your own. And that means making the changes, the adjustments to make sure that you can have the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion. Every flight that you've got on, and Phil and Ashok, and of course Angelo and others on this, the first thing the flight safety officers do after they settle with our seatbelt is say, in case of an emergency, make sure that you put the mask on your face first, then help others. And I think that's a good advice these times, is we need to make sure we're putting on our own oxygen mask, making sure our immune system's correct, our health is vibrant. Look, if you're not feeling great, take a day off, get away from everything, go do a power walk, a bike ride, something like that. But you really need to recalibrate your personal, I think, thermometer to make sure that you're able to have the energy, the ideas, the inspiration to not only help your clients and your family and your friends and perhaps your wife and children and your neighbors, but most importantly, yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing a lot of people across the causeway in JB and Malaysia who are going through tremendous challenges. And it's just heartbreaking to be, an hour away and not be able to go.
And not be able to do that, right?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And so if you can send, some love in the mail, or some money via email, or by banking scenarios, trying to lift the bar and make it a positive impact in people. And I'm a big one on birthdays and making sure people, we stay in touch. You can't do it all the time, but making it a regular activity.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Those were great tips, great insights. And I know both of us can go on for much longer on this, right? And we will, right? And
It'd
we
be a
will.
pleasure to come back, and I wish everybody well as we go through these weeks and months ahead. And of course, if someone online wants to do a power walk, I'm happy to get out there at 4:35 and let's go at it.
There you go. Right, Rob, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, my friend. Cheers.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Salisbury. Okay, so my next guest for this evening, okay, let me get her up, is Nidhi. Nidhi, are you there? Let me get you. Let's see, where are you?
I'm here.
There you are. Okay. There you are. Hi, Nidhi. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me. It was so amazing to listen to Rob, and I haven't seen him in a while, actually.
Yeah. Sure. Right. So, Nidhi, you have been an interview coach for a while now. You were from Singapore Airlines before. You were a trainer. And then once you left, you've been helping people get jobs. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Literally, you've been helping people get a job, and you've been doing a great job at that. But since COVID started, right, and jobs were lost. People are literally out of jobs, and how has that affected what you do?
So I have to be really honest. There's been a lot of change on a personal and professional level, and two words have been like the core of what I do: adaptability and resilience. And I think that's really, really important at this point in time. First of all, being an interview and people skills coach, especially because I was actually helping cabin crew aspirants in aviation industry taking such a big hit.
Oh yeah, I missed that out actually, because you were, So that's a big part that I missed out. You weren't just helping people get jobs, you were specializing in helping cabin crew, people who had aspirations to become a flight attendant, and you were helping them get into the industry. And then the industry just went to a complete standstill.
That's true. So I wanted to, have a niche, and I thought cabin crew aspirants would be a niche that I wanted to deal with. And suddenly, like, the whole COVID affected the whole aviation industry. So it's been tough and challenging, I have to say. But as I said, adaptability was one of the things that I really had to focus on. So even though cabin crew industry is not really hiring at this point in time, aviation industry has taken a toll. We really kind of adapted to just do interview coaching, because I think that is one thing that people really needed help in, because there were people who were not just wanting to get jobs, but there were people who were getting retrenched, and they really wanted to work on their CV. They wanted to work on their personality. They wanted to stand out in interviews. Because obviously, given COVID, the competition was really, really tough. So adaptability was really important. So that's what we did. But on a personal level, I think resilience was really important. So, it's really funny. Even though I help people get jobs, but at this point in time, I had to get a job for myself too, because business wasn't really that great. And, I just had to, make sure that I contribute to my family on the financial aspect. So I found a job for myself. So I think, as I said, adaptability and resilience was really, really important. And that is something that I incorporate in my coaching classes at this point in time. So the funny thing is that even though when I started my coaching in 2017, I was always online. I never really went offline. So I never really had a physical.
Because you had a global audience, right?
Yes, that's what I wanted to do. So I set up a social media platform, and I have like 50,000 people who follow me on different social media platforms, right? But still, it took a hit. And, I would have expected that people will still join the coaching classes, but they didn't, because they actually didn't know if cabin crew industry is going to hire. So, yeah.
And the industry is still a little slow till now, right? While there are some flights here and there, but it's nowhere close to what it used to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it will take time.
Right. So what are you seeing right now in the job market then? That means, well, for someone that that, because I mean, people can still, make career changes if they want to, because there are still opportunities in other industries, because there are some industries that are affected, but at the same time, there are some industries that are thriving, right, in times like this, So, but what's the biggest change that you feel that people have to adapt with in terms of looking for jobs in this day and age?
I think primarily there are two big changes that people have to adapt to. First and foremost, I think it's no longer really about looking up a job opportunity and just, going with your resume and submitting your CV. I think it's really about networking. So you have to be really out there networking with people. And I think LinkedIn plays a huge role, socially connecting with people on a digital platform. That's one of the biggest changes. So even though, you don't want to connect with an HR telling them that I want a job, you really want to be in touch with an HR, just commenting on their post and, telling them that you're here sort of exist. So I think that's one of the major changes, because everyone's online at this point in time, right?
Yep.
So I think being in a digital space and making a social presence, but not being on a TikTok and making a dance video, but just making a social presence from the perspective of a professional presence. I think that's really, really important. So, networking with people on a social platform, professional platform is really, really important. I think that's one. And second major change that we've seen in general is that people really have to adapt to video interviewing. I think that's really
that's a big thing now, right?
Absolutely.
Everything is being done virtually. I would say majority of things are being done virtually. And I think one thing that has changed is this. I think now that the world are more in tune with doing things virtually, I think this virtual aspect is going to stay even when times get better. I
agree. I totally agree, because it saves a lot of cost for a lot of companies. So that's really, really important. So, I had to adapt to that as well. I actually bought a new laptop. I bought a webcam and I made sure I set up a good background and things like that. So I think that's something that people really have to get used to. You cannot have a background that doesn't convey the message that you want to convey professionally and things like that. So virtually equipping yourself with tools and understanding the whole process is really, really important, because again, to a lot of people, they think that virtual interviews can be a bit daunting because you don't really see the people that you speak to. But here's a little tip that I want to share with everyone, because I make a lot of YouTube videos, and when I first shot my YouTube video, the first thing was oh my God, are people going to be able to connect with me when we're talking over camera? So for everyone who's listening to this, just a quick tip here. Just don't think there's a camera. Just think that you're talking to someone live. I think that really, really helps. So I actually imagine an imaginary set of audience that's sitting in front of me. I actually don't look at the camera. I really imagine there are a bunch of people who are sitting in front of me. And I think that really helps. So that's what you want to do. You want to breach that gap. You want to make sure that someone who's listening to you, even on a virtual platform, gets to connect with you, even though it's a virtual platform and they're just looking from a video lens. But that's what you want to do.
Is it harder to connect with people virtually compared to in person?
So that's the thing, right? Once you remove that camera, once you think of people that you're talking to and not a camera that you're talking to, it really takes away that hesitation. So once you actually look at the camera lens, it's very hesitating. It's very daunting. But just imagine the interviewer sitting in front of you. You don't have to look through a camera lens. You just have to look beyond. And I think that really helps. That personally really, really helps.
It does. So so for those who are thinking that how come I'm not making eye contact with the camera, because I'm not looking at the camera, I'm just following Nidhi's tip and I'm looking at her right in front of me. But because I have that same thing, right? Where when it's a camera, right, it just, I freeze when it's a camera, but when I start imagining, as you said, it's someone in front of me, it makes that world of difference. So Nidhi, on a personal note, right? On a personal level, how has COVID affected you?
Well, I have to be honest. I wasn't really looking forward to going back to a full-time job because, coming back from like a Singapore Airlines cabin crew background, you're not used to a 9 to 5 job. I haven't done that in like 15 years now. So, but yeah, as I said, that's what you need to do. So I went with the flow, and I think it's really good. I'm learning new skills along the way. I think it's really important to look at everything from a very positive lens. That's really, really important. There are some things that you have to do, and that's part of your growing, and you just have to look at it from a very positive lens. So I'm enjoying my new job. I'm learning as much as I can, and I'm working 7 days a week, and that's really, really exhausting, but at the same time, it's very thrilling.
So what do you do to stay positive in times like this? What works for you?
Actually, quite a few things. I think one of the things that really helps is people that are on my social media platform. Once I get to hear from people. So I had a few people who actually got jobs during the entire pandemic, during the COVID situation. I have quite a few people who actually got employed, and I think that was very motivating to do what I do. Just to hear that, because of my videos, because of my coaching, they actually got employed, and that was actually very, very motivating. And I think personally, self-motivation is really, really important. So for me, when I wake up every day, and it's something that I'm not even joking, because you've been to my house and you know this, that there is a mirror that's right next to my bed. So I actually wake up, and that's the first thing that I do. I look into the mirror and I tell myself this is going to be a great day, and I have to do whatever I need to do to keep going. So that's what I do. I do a lot of positive affirmations for myself. Okay. I tell myself that, I can do this, and this is going to be a great day, and there is a greater purpose to all of this. So that's really important. I think apart from external motivation, just internal motivation by doing what you need to do to keep going is really, really important. So that's what I really do. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Nidhi, my last question for you, before I let you off the hook as well, is in this last 1.5 years, right? What have you seen in terms of the human spirit, people coming together? What has been your experience in this? People coming together to help one another.
I think I'll be really honest. I think I've made more friends.
Yeah.
In last 1.5 years, I've gotten to know a lot of people that I didn't know before. And especially, the very fact that you don't travel, you actually make time to see people that are right here. Because, sometimes people that are just next to you, you don't take time out because you're always like all over the place. So I think I've made a lot of friends. I've taken time out to connect with people, my family, my friends, and I think that has been a really great learning lesson. Just knowing that you really need to cherish the people that you have in your life. So that is something that I've learned in the last 1.5 years. It's you can actually like really rely on people, and there are people who would support you and who will motivate you and things like that. So I've definitely made a lot of new friends in the last 1.5 years.
Fantastic. Nidhi, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and I'll chat with you soon, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we've got about 10 more minutes before the session. I bring the session to the close as well. For my next guest, I've got a very special friend who's come on board as well. His name is Dr. Philip Merry. Let me bring Dr. Philip Merry up so everyone can see him. Dr. Phil, where are you?
I'm here, waiting.
There you are. I found you.
My name.
Yeah.
You can call me Dr. Phil. That's okay.
I can call you Dr. Phil, right? So, Dr. Phil here, he's got over 42 years of experience, speaking in over 100 cities, 62 countries. He's done a lot of work in cross-cultural leadership, spirituality at work, happiness, and even engagement and team excellence. And Dr. Philip Merry is the only person in the world, right, that he has done in-depth research, and he's got a grounded theory PhD. He's got a PhD in synchronicity and leadership, and he's got a book that's coming out in November that's called The 9 Keys of Synchronicity. All right. But Dr.
Synchronicity, Jit.
Synchronicity. Synchronicity. Yeah, you go. All right. Yes, but thank you for joining us here today, Philip. It's really a pleasure to have you. But I've known you for a while now. And COVID has affected a lot of us in many different ways since it started. But I think to start off with, you had a bit of a COVID scare yourself early on when it started. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not here to talk about the book or anything like that. And call me Philip. I was joking when I said Dr. Phil. Listen, I'm 72 years old this year.
Yep.
And I thought, I know this stuff. I've been through crisis. I've been through difficulty, etc., etc., etc. But this year I was scared twice, but particularly the first time when I was told by my doctor that I needed to have a COVID test. And I tell you, probably many people here have experienced it. There was nothing worse than those 3 days on my own at home, because my wife was in Bishan with her mother, waiting for the COVID test.
This was sometime last year, right? Or was it early this year?
Last April.
Last April, yeah. And,
so
and tests
when you teach change and all of that stuff, as I've done over the years, you think, I can cope with this. Actually, you can't. Even though I'm still 71 years young, I was scared. As soon as I knew that I was having to wait for the test, am I going to die? Am I going to go to hospital? Am I going to die? And so the big lesson for me is to be comfortable to express how you feel.
Okay.
I think there's a thing going around, which I call toxic positivity.
Okay.
In order to deal with the stuff that you're dealing with in life, let yourself feel the feelings. Now, I'm not saying stay there all the time, but you've got to admit when it is you're scared or frightened, and I was. Now, when my test came through and I was negative, I jumped around the house and was very, very happy about all of it. But
that was 3 days later, right?
Sorry?
But that was 3 days later.
It was. And, I think I'm the only one in Singapore who's had a vaccination jab with his mother-in-law because we're in the same age group. She's 84 and I'm 71. So we went together for the test. But what was really important was understanding that I was feeling the same things that I teach other people to get over. So I had to apply what I teach other people to me. Admit that I was afraid. Then pause and remember that with different mindsets, I do a lot of change programs, changing mindsets. I did a lot of stuff around that. So what I learned, Jit, was please, folks, let yourself feel pissed off and angry and afraid if you are pissed off and angry and afraid. Only then do you move through to something a bit more positive. And I felt that, and I still feel, one of the big things that COVID, if COVID's teaching us anything, is about facing death. We look around the world, we know lots of people who've got the disease, and then we see the death figures. Everybody's afraid.
Yep.
Have you seen an article or a TV program talking about this is how you face death? Because we're all going to face death.
Yep.
And so that was a great learning for me to think about, well, we're all going to die. So really, when you face death, and potentially everyone in this show, in this Zoom, could face death.
Yep.
COVID's not gone yet. So it's about then how you live. And I think there's a lot of nonsense talked about change. Because what I found in this year, find zones of security. All of this stuff about constant change is here to stay. Yes, change is around.
Yep.
But we only can face change when we have a secure platform. And one of the things that I've done this year, which really worked for me, find old movies that I love.
Okay.
And let your body and mind and emotion be flooded with those positivities. I watched the other week, The Blind Side.
Okay.
Which is absolutely
that's a beautiful
full
movie.
of love and care. You've seen it many times, doesn't matter. To combat all the stress that's around, flood your body with good feelings by watching great movies that you like and you know will fill you with a good sense of being alive.
Yeah, because mental health, I suppose it's I mean, talk about mental health has been going on for years, with stresses and all that. But I think in the last 1.5 years, it has really come more to light, partly also because I think when a lot of us went into lockdown, that was in a sense, a sort of self-isolation where we are no longer having that exposure to the world that we once had.
Of course, and it affects different people differently, don't forget.
Yeah.
You're more introvert, people love being on Zoom because it means I can hide.
Yeah.
But actually, I just want to contribute to this face-to-face thing because, normally we mean Zoom or face-to-face.
Yep.
But actually, Zoom is more face-to-face than being physically present. So I've run training sessions whereby everybody can see everybody's face, and we've actually got closer than sometimes we do when we're physically next to each other, because you can see the face.
Yep.
So you have to focus on the emotion. You have to be able to say, Amelia, you don't look so happy at the moment, or yes, now you look very happy. So as a facilitator for online stuff, and I've run stuff this year in Papua New Guinea, in Zimbabwe, in LA, etc., to focus on the face. Actually, Zoom meetings can get you closer than sometimes you can when you're physically in the same room. And physically in the same room, you can hide.
Yep.
You can look at your email, you can go to the toilet, you can go for a smoke, whatever. Zoom doesn't let you do that. And so I really feel that it's important to enable us, those of us who facilitate online, create an atmosphere where people feel they can talk with each other. And I've made a lot of use. If a session starts at 9, I turn on everybody's video at 8:30 and recreate the coffee break before a session starts. Because people want to feel secure. And if you let them know that they can talk about feeling afraid or, not happy, or they've had a loved one who've passed, suddenly that creates an atmosphere within your online seminar where people want to turn on their video because you say it's okay to talk about your feelings here. So those are the tips that I've learned, Jit, over the last year, and it's taught a lot. It's taught me a lot.
Yeah. So Philip, a last question for you, sir. What can we do? Simple things that we can do on top of what you've already shared a few tips just now. What can we do? Maybe something on a daily basis, on a personal basis, for us to take care of our mental health. Because I don't know. I want to attract happiness. I know happiness is within. But I still want to be at peace, I suppose, because we are still in crisis mode, and the fears do come back from time to time of what's going to happen.
Well, I'm going to answer you properly, not in the way that you think.
Yep.
Don't try to be happy. Don't try to be positive. Be who you are now. And if possible, share with a friend who you are now. Because once you do that, then you can move through it.
Okay.
So feel where you are now, and let yourself recognize that humankind, and maybe Rob and Ashok and I will remember because we're probably older here, but I remember crisis all through the years. When I was in my 20s, I thought the world was going to end because the Russians and the Americans were going to blow us all up. Remember that we get through crisis. Now, this is a tough one, but always think that whatever you're going through now, it will come to an end, and the sun will rise after there's been storms and darkness and a difficult time. So, but please don't avoid what you feel now and find a way to express that, because if you don't, you push it down and it makes things worse.
So faking it till you make it doesn't work, right?
Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no, but I've seen far too many people really disturbed because they've got underlying feelings that they've not shared with anybody.
So I think, because I think you're right as well, because I think vulnerability, or at least showing vulnerability, it's something that a lot of us struggle with. We have the same vulnerabilities, but some of us don't want to show it because maybe it's a perception that it makes you weak, or makes you look weak among others, and we start keeping that in, right?
Exactly, Jit, you're absolutely spot on. Because when you show your vulnerability, you're being human. And there's nothing better that encourages other people to share their stuff than you setting the example of doing that yourself. We need a world, we need organizations where people can be fully themselves, not just smiling a plastic smile.
Got it.
But fully themselves.
Fully themselves. Got it. Dr. Philip Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really been a pleasure, and great tips that you have shared. And I look forward to having a chat with you about all this once again. Yep. Thank you, Dr. Phil. Okay. And that was Dr. Philip Mary, ladies and gentlemen. And my last guest for today. Okay, let me bring him up. His name is Jason. All right. So Jason is a good friend of mine as well. Jason is a creative director from a design agency. So he does design and creative work. And he's been helping brands interact with audience digitally among different touch points for many years now, right? Jason, what is... I was having this chat with Jason the other day, and something came up because I was talking to Jason. I asked Jason, I said, in terms of business, how has business been for him since COVID started? Being in the creative agency, being in the design world, how has things changed for him? Did business take a dip like everyone else? And Jason told me something very different. He said, in fact, business for him has actually got better. And he shared with me why, and that's really what I want to ask Jason first today. So Jason, I have you on, right?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, Jason. So Jason, share with all of us, how has business been better for you since COVID started?
So basically, I do a lot of design work. I help company go digital. During this pandemic period, right? A lot of companies actually understand what it means to go digital, to actually reach out to more audience, or audience that they don't know they can reach in the first place. So I'm talking about companies like, for example, for example, a furniture company that is manufacturing furnitures. Once they adopt to go digital, to build an e-commerce, it provides a digital catalog for someone to actually view it at the comfort of their home.
Because in the past, it was all physical, right? People would walk into a store,
Correct.
Yeah.
So things are all physical. And whether or not there is stock or there is no stock, nobody knows. Because you have to go down to the place in order to, to see whether or not does this furniture actually suit you, whether or not is this the last piece or that kind of thing. So after adopting e-commerce, right, they are able to reach out to different audience. And in the first place, they are in some industrial area. So getting there becomes really difficult. And they are at, industrial areas whereby you are at some certain floors whereby nobody will actually walk over there. There's no like physical showroom or anything. Your awareness is really within your industry or through word of mouth.
But going digital now has opened up more doors, I take it, for businesses?
Correct. So opening up more doors to different people around, especially around Singapore. So currently they are actually expanding overseas already.
Okay.
Yeah, because of, when you talk about digitalization or you talk about going digital, it's like during this period of pandemic, I'm sure there are people over here who have relatives that are overseas. And on a personal level, right, you cannot fly back. Even if you can, there's a lot of restrictions, there's a lot of procedures that you actually have to go through. So what, I mean, what do? You go through like Zoom.
Yep.
You go through video calls.
Yep.
You go through Google Meet.
Yep.
All these are part of going digital.
Mm.
So going digital now, right, has become a necessity. It's not just for businesses, but for individuals as well. So because the world, right, is heading towards that direction. So like it or not, right, going digital actually helps to save time.
That's true. That's true. Because like it or not, we are all doing things digitally now.
Yes, even in this Zoom.
Even in this Zoom, even connecting with people, or even, like you say, if you've got family overseas, attending weddings, attending birthdays, and all kinds of stuff, everything is being done digitally, right? So for someone to say that they are not going digital now, I think it's quite hard.
Yes, it's quite hard. So I give an example. So I'm sure you guys seen like in Facebook or things like that, whereby certain hawkers during this pandemic period, they got no sales because they rely on their regular customers. And the reason why for them not being digital is because they don't know how to use, they don't know how to go digital. There's not enough guidance. There's not enough hand holding, especially for older folks, to actually bring, to actually have to have someone to actually bring them on board the different processes and things like that. That's why recently during this pandemic, right, I volunteered at my grassroots area at Tanjong Pagar to help people go digital on so there is really on simple things whereby that certain people, especially in my area, Tanglin Hub area, there are people that don't even know Grab. There are people that don't even have a Visa card. They only got one Nets card or just a bank book. Whereby every time they need to withdraw money, they need to go down to the bank all the way to Holland Village or Tiong Bahru just to queue up and then to withdraw money and then to have their bank books being checked before they can actually get some cash. And then, I mean, for you guys, right, how do you guys draw money? You just go to the ATM, you put your ATM card and those kind of things, right? Imagine people out there that don't even know what's going on. So I think going digital is really important now. I mean, going digital is really broad subject.
And I suppose going digital doesn't have to only mean how we can be more tech savvy or digital savvy. But I suppose what you're trying to say is that we also can help those who are not so tech savvy become more digital, right? Like, for example, if I know how to use internet banking, and if I know of someone, especially in someone who is a bit more elderly from a more senior generation, we could take it upon ourselves to help them get on board and be more digital as well, right?
Correct. It's like I just taught my grandmother how to use PayNow.
Okay. Yep.
So recently she has been using iBanking. She's going 80, so it's not an excuse. She knows how to go on board Taobao.
Okay.
Actually she even purchased a robot cleaner recently.
Online, right?
Yeah. So I think it's not an excuse anymore. It's really a necessity now.
I don't think it's a non-option anymore.
Yes. So even like for my grandmother, right? She started to learn there's some learning curve, because if you look at the world 30 years back. Back then it could be that pager also don't have. From pager you transit to the famous Nokia 3310. And then from there you transit to smartphones. So I'm sure you guys have gone through this process. Just that they are going through this process in like maybe 1 year.
Got it. Yeah. So the learning curve has become, it has been speed tracked, I take it, I suppose. Yeah. So
But so just to add on, given the technology now is advancing so fast, there are great user experience designers out there that actually help design all this to make it so easy that even my grandmother can use.
Yeah.
I believe everyone or companies out there should actually adopt all these kind of technologies to feed their industry or feed their business needs.
Because I think a lot of industries in the past refused to go digital because they had, at least the thought was that, physical, doing things the way they were doing it would never change. But now, having experienced a forced change, digitalization has become more of a priority. So Jason, a digital presence is important for businesses. And I think a lot of businesses know that already now, and they have already started adopting technology. But what about for an individual? Is it still important? So let's just say I don't run a business. I'm still, I'm working, I'm working for an employer, I work for a company, I'm an individual, all right? I know how to use apps. And from internet bankings to ordering food online, I know how to do all that. But is it still important for me to have a digital presence?
Yes, it's important because basically it's to have a digital presence, right? Okay, you make friends in the past physically.
Yep.
In terms of you need to go down, have a drink or something like that, or someone introduced to you, and then you meet friends like that. Everyone just gather around. Nowadays, even for dating, even you have a dating app to see whether or not this guy or this lady is suitable for you. So all this is part of you adapting to become digital. Let's say, for example, this in this Zoom session that we have, right? You connected it to YouTube Live.
Yes.
Correct. So you found a way to connect to YouTube Live.
Yep.
There are people that don't know. I don't know how also. So you connect to YouTube Live. You reach out to global audience because through your YouTube, you get people from different country that don't know this event that exists, and then when they saw, right, they are actually watching it now. So I think as an individual, right, you need to keep exploring. You cannot be so stubborn and then you just stay somewhere and then you are just not exploring things out there. You need to adapt. You need to be agile enough to try out different things in order for you to understand better on what it means for a person to go digital.
Right. Cool. So Jason, last question for you. And my question is this. What are maybe like 3 things we can do to create a digital presence for ourselves?
Facebook is counted.
Facebook is counted. Okay.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think.
So I think that's all under social media, right? That means having
that's
having
all
a
under
social
media. Having an email if you talk about it, which I'm sure everyone in this group has, right?
Yeah.
So from there, right, you actually understand. It could be your career path. It could be where you want to look for things, and then you through these different pillars or through these different networks that you have, you slowly reach out to gain a better digital presence.
Would doing something like maybe having a personal website or things like even maybe starting a blog page just to get more familiar with the online world, would something like that help?
Well, it could. Yes. There are web builders out there.
Yeah, because in the past, people always think that only big companies should have websites, right?
Correct. That's like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But then now for you to build a website, right? Unless you really need like very in-depth business user experience, that kind of thing, you can build a website yourself. You can go to like things like Wix, things like Squarespace. So I know people that actually go inside, go and build a website for themselves.
Yep.
To make it as a resume.
Okay. So that means now your website becomes your CV.
Yes. So it could be attached to an email. It could be attached to your original resume. So especially for designers, right? All of us, we tend to have our own website.
Yep.
Because that's where we showcase our work. Those kind of thing.
Yep.
So I mean, it's not just restricted to just like, us designers or things like that. I mean, as an individual, you have a website, you have your different highlights, your strengths that you want to showcase, which can be done through a website.
Yep. Cool. Right, Jason, thank you so much for all the tips that you shared, and about the importance of going digital. I've actually got a comment here from Juliana that says that, no, there are some users who do not have a Facebook account or simply don't want to be on Facebook or on social media. And I suppose that is okay, because I think there are many different ways we can create a digital presence. And like what Jason just said, it could be starting your own web page, just to have that as a CV. It could be your own blog page. But I think the whole goal here is to start getting familiar and start accepting that being digital is the future. Everything is going to be more and more digital, and we've got to start getting on board with digitalization. That's right.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
Cool. All right, Jason, thank you so much for joining us, and for sharing all your tips. It's been a pleasure, friend. Take care, buddy.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. And that was my last guest for today. As I said, we've heard a lot of stories, a lot of sharings, a lot of insights, and most importantly, I've had a lot of experiences. Like I said in the beginning of this event, it's been a challenging time. It's been a tough time for a lot of us since the start of this pandemic, but we are all in this together. We are figuring out things together, and I think most importantly, we can always learn from each other. We can be the support system for each other, and we can learn from each other from all of this. Nobody has to go through this alone. Nobody is going through this alone. And I think that's a reminder that we all must tell ourselves. It's okay to ask for help, as what Priya said. It's okay to be vulnerable, as what Dr. Philip has said. Do positive things like what Rob shared, little changes in the morning that you can do to set your day right. Start getting familiar with having an online presence. That's important as well. Having that virtual connection over interviews and with people, these are all important things. All right. So with that, I hope all of you here had a good and insightful session. I know I did, and I know I learned a lot. I was taking a lot of notes myself, and let's keep this going. Organize your own sessions among yourselves. Be that support system for each other, and be that positive influence, that positive support system for each other. It's going to make that world of difference. Okay, with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you, all my guests, for sharing so much, for being on this show wholeheartedly, and for showing us that we can get through this. All right. With that, I'd like to hand the floor back to Ashok. Ashok, are you here, sir?
Yes, I am here. Thank you very much, Jit. That was a lovely session. I know we have gone a little beyond time, but you know what? Everyone was engaged. Thank you very much, Jason, for telling us how to learn new skills. Thank you for Philip. He has left about being real to ourselves, being honest, being authentic. Nidhi for telling us how to be better in our interviews, video interviews. And Rob, thank you for telling us about keeping ourselves healthy, and Priya for asking for help. And that's what exactly Pastor Elias Toastmasters did some time back. We reached out to Jit and asked for help and said, hey, you know what? We need to help not only our members within our club, but also the community. And he came up with this idea of gathering normal people. Yes, that includes you, Rob, right? Gathering normal people.
We are all normal people, right?
Yeah, we all are, right? To talk about how we can support each other. So thank you very much, Jit. Really appreciate it from
Most
everyone
welcome,
here
Ashok.
at Pastor Elias Toastmasters. Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Priya, Rob. Philip is left. So, and everyone else who have joined us for today. If you have any questions about the Toastmasters, do get in touch with Amelia, which I posted earlier in the PowerPoint. Right. With that, thank you. Have a great week ahead, and July is just around the corner.
Fantastic.
Right.
Thank
Another
you.
6
Thanks,
more
Ashok.
exciting months to go. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
See you
Ashok.
soon.
And thank you. And sorry, one last shout out. Thank you so much to the Pastor Elias Toastmasters for having us here today. Really, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to what you have lined up next.
Right. Thank you. We'll keep you updated very soon in July. Thank you, Angelo. Thank you, Olivia, Siddiq, Arisa. Thank you very much. Juliana, too. I loved your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm going to just hang back for another 5 or 10 minutes. If anyone wants to stay and have a chat, feel free. If for those that need to leave, thank you so much and have a pleasant evening and a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you.
Yay. Good job.